aside from the week-to-week grind of the ministry and my dissertation, for classes and stuff, man, I know, just kind of been reflecting on what we've been discussing,
Mm.
Terms of promised land, how that is relevant to the life of our beloved community, and specifically dealing with the life of those who are marginalized, who are, as you put it, descendants of American slavery, is, just kind of been thinking about this whole idea of being in exile. Looking at presidential election of this year, we're looking at pandemic, rise of COVID deaths in our country. Also looking at the fact that our state, the state of Florida, is back open. Our children are back in schools, man. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, it's challenging because my church, we are partnered with the school in our community, and they're getting ready to embrace back into the schools. And I got parents whose children go to that school, and I got teachers in my congregation just dealing with this whole anxiety. So I just feel like, man, we are in exile, my brother.
Yeah, man. In exile. And I guess, I say, when I said earlier that, it's a struggle, but it's, I'm here, I'm good. Trying to be good, the trying to be good part for me comes in because we're in exile, and I want to know how you resonate with this, either we're in exile and are comfortable being in exile, or somehow we're in exile and don't even realize that we're in exile. And it's a frustrating thing because, we look out at the people and you're like, man, what is it? I'm like, let me not make it abstract, right? I'm like, what does it take for our people to desire better for ourselves? What does it take for our people to demand better of ourselves, demand better for ourselves? Like, I feel like, many of us, myself included, let me speak for myself again, beating my head against the wall, trying to speak to my people, quote unquote, trying not to be like Moses, but also maybe I need to be like Moses, because when Moses got frustrated, Moses went to the Lord like, yo, what's going on with you and your people? What's up with your people? Like, I don't know these folks. What's going on with your people? And it's like, that tension of remembering that they ain't my people. We are, you are, they are the Lord's people. But they are my people. And feeling a kinship for, feeling a responsibility toward, desiring freedom for, desiring deliverance for, and just seeing, man, our people want to stay in Egypt. And, you know, I wonder, you know, like the mind of Moses as he watched the Hebrew people. You know, when Jethro came, Jethro was like, "What you doing?" He was like, "Yeah, I gotta get up early in the morning because you see that line out there with these people on all their problems. Man, they come to me and I judge them with their problems." Jethro was like, "Yo, you gonna kill yourself," because Moses was killing himself with these people. You better do it the other way. You need to set up a whole bunch of different elders for every tribe and whatnot, and they deal with the small problems, and you deal with just the big problems. Otherwise, you're gonna run yourself ragged with all these problems. And you know, I wonder about the mind of Moses. You know, watching his people argue over the bullshit, preferring the way they have always been to the way of freedom that the Lord was inviting them to. And I wonder that because I'm like, man, I know Moses got so pissed off that he broke the stone tablets, right? Like he came down, he smashed them. He was like, God just wrote these. Like he had just left that holy space where God was, you know, and he came out there like, what in the entire fuck, like, and broke them tablets. And so we know a little bit about the mind of Moses, but I just wonder about the mind of Moses watching his people stuck on stupid. You know, because I know me watching my people, watching our people stuck on stupid. I'm at a loss, man. I'm like, yo. So that's where I've been at. You know, it's like you watch all this shit, and it's like, you know, what do we really want? And the question then becomes, because I know if I'm feeling it and I'm not in it as much as you are, since you have day-to-day operations, you know, as much as some other people are, you know, who may have day-to-day operations and leading our people. You know, how does Black leadership, you know, as we talk to young Black leaders coming up in the game, how does Black leadership stay true to the leadership of Moses and not acquiesce to the leadership of Aaron? And what I mean by that is this, you know, I'm reading this section now on the golden calf. And the people came to Aaron while Moses was off talking to the Lord, and yo, we don't know what's going on with this Moses dude, man. You make us a god or something. And Aaron was like, all right, give me your gold and I'll make you this golden calf. Here is your God that brought you out of the land of Egypt. And I see that, man, and I'm like, man, that's what Black leadership has done, yo. Black leadership like Aaron. Black leadership been like Aaron. And was willing to do whatever he needed to do to appease the people. And, you know, when Moses came back, like, what the fuck, son? Like, what you doing, yo? And Aaron was like, yo, you seen these people, my dude? You know how these people go? And I can imagine Moses was like, hell yeah, I know how these people go. Did you ever see me acquiesce to these people when they came talking about what was back in Egypt? Did you ever see me take them back to eat? What the hell you doing, my dude? And Aaron was like, yo, man, you was gone. I didn't know what to do. These people was bothering me. I just wanted these people to leave me alone. So I gave them what they wanted. And that's what Black leadership been doing, yo. And it's crazy because we are like the Israelites, right? Like, and I'm going to get to some sort of question soon, man, because I'm just running off at the mouth, man. But this is just where I've been, man. We are like the Israelites, right? Like the Israelites were in bondage in Egypt for 400 plus years. Didn't nobody get impatient with their bondage? Man, they was out in the wilderness for a minute. And they was like, yo, Moses been gone for a couple of days. I don't know what's coming of him, man. We better do something. Like, yo, ungrateful wretches. Like,
Y'all been in bondage for 400 years, and now Moses been gone for a few days, and y'all lost y'all mind. Y'all so impatient. Something got to give. Somebody got to do something. What? But that's black folk. Like, and so you start longing for what is convenient, longing for what is familiar, longing for whatever little piece of change you got that made you feel okay in the midst of your oppression. And that's not necessarily the problem. That's not. That's natural. The problem is when Aaron was like, okay, cool, give me everything you got and I'll make you this golden calf. Like, the problem is when pastors are like, okay, cool, you know, just give me your tithes, I'll tell y'all this, I'll tell y'all that, I'll hoop and holler and make you feel good in the name of the Lord. And, you know, meanwhile, I'll lead you back to Egypt because that's what you want. You want to go back to Egypt? Okay, cool, I'll lead you back to Egypt. So how do, and this comes the question, right? How do, and that's just all the background for my question. How do we as Black leadership stay true to the model of Moses, even with its flaws, and not continue to fall victim to the model of Aaron?
Man, that's an interesting question, man. I like the fact that you gave the backdrop of your question, man. I think the answer has to become the answer, I should say, is in lieu of two things. Number one, are you leading, you know, to design your own or build your own platform? Are you leading to make it about you? So I think, you know, if that's the case, you know, you'll do whatever it takes to exalt yourself. Or the second question, or the second perspective is, you know, are you for the people? You know, and I think that's what kind of, to me, when I look at Moses and Aaron, is what separates the two. Aaron was about himself, though Aaron was the type of person who was very, you know, he was a people pleaser. He liked to be liked, you know, that type of thing. So it's like, all right, whatever y'all do, I'm cool with it, you know, and y'all just do that. And Moses, you know, puts Aaron in charge because, you know, Moses trusts him. That's his brother, right? This is family. And oftentimes in leadership, though we do value trust, I mean, that's essential. Sometimes trust, in the sense of who a person is to you, may not allow us to hone in on the mission at hand or the vision at hand, you know. And so, you know, so these are just kind of dynamics that one has to look at. If you are for the people, then, you know, you are for the people, think that that'll help to shape the vision and the direction that not only you have for yourself, but you have for an entire people, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get them there. That's just me talking. You know, there's so many other answers to this, because you have various types of leadership approaches. You have various types of leadership models, but it is clear that Moses is a situationalist. You know what I'm saying? Moses loves the people. You know, the people trust Moses. You know, Moses is a flawed human being just like anyone else. But it's the fact that Moses is extremely consistent with who he is. You know, the people develop a trust for him, you know, in that sense. But however, you know, my thing is, you know, it just all depends upon what your perspective is. Are you for yourself, or are you for the people? And that's just kind of a answer made short. Are you for yourself, or are you for the people?
Yeah, but I get that. The butt is really an opportunity for us to maybe explore that deeper, right? Like, because I look at Aaron, right? We talk about Moses and Aaron. Aaron was chosen by the Lord to be Moses' support. There's a reason that Moses trusts him, not just because he's his brother, but because when he tried to get out of the missional work that the Lord had given to him, the Lord gave him a staff and Aaron. And with these two things, you good. Like, Aaron knew what was up from the beginning. Like, what compels, and yeah, you for self, right? But where is the evidence that that was Aaron's problem? I mean, it's easy to say that we're for self, right? I mean, it's easy not to say that that's not the truth. I'm just saying that that's because yes, it always comes down to that, right? And so it's easy to say that because yeah, that's always going to be there. Clearly, he was for self over the way of the Lord.
So let's look.
But would he have thought that in the beginning? You know, he would have thought of himself as being committed to the Lord. And then found himself in a circumstance whereby the best response that he could come up with was to betray the Lord and to allow the people to betray the Lord so that he could, I guess, preserve himself, and more than preserve himself, like, you know, we think about preserve ourselves like, oh, I want to keep my job. I want to, you know what I mean? No. Preserve his sanity. You know, so rather than have the people harass him and rail against him while Moses ain't there, you know, I imagine that Aaron was more like John Starks and Moses was like Patrick Ewing. You know, like if you ever remember them Knicks teams, man, John Starks had all kinds of mouth when Moses was around. John Starks could stand firm as a mug. John Starks get up in Michael Jordan's face when Ewing was on the court. But when Ewing was on the bench, John Starks was a little punk. John Starks ain't had nothing to say to nobody. It was like Debo rules, you know? I got mind control over Debo. He'd be like, shut the fuck up. I'll be quiet. But when he leave, I'll be talking again. That's Aaron to me. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I see Moses and we know Moses had to be strong. Like, the Lord wrote on 2 stone tablets and Moses carries these tablets, right? So I imagine Moses is like the big black man, the big, you know, strapping black man. And so, yeah, ain't nobody they're going to rail against him. But when Moses really put his foot down and say, yo, you know, they calm down. But Aaron ain't had that kind of clout with the people. That's what I'm imagining. And there's a lot of eisegesis, right? Aaron ain't got that clout with the people. And so when they buck at him, when Moses ain't around, he like, shit, what am I going to do? What? Because it's more than just being selfish, right? It's more than just being selfish, that type of person that's willing to acquiesce. That's willing to acquiesce. I mean, I want to think it's more than being selfish. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's all there is. But, you know, I would like to believe that Aaron did not see himself as the person who would simply give in to the will of the people. And the question for exploration then becomes, because many of our brothers and sisters in the ministry would say to us and would say to you and would say to anyone, would say to themselves, nah, that ain't gonna be me. I ain't gonna betray the people. I'm gonna lead the people the right way. Yeah, I know they may want to go this way, but when the Lord told me that we need to go this way, this is the way I'm gonna lead them. But the reality is that's not true. So how do we not even identify others, right? Because we can make all kinds of judgments about others. But how do we identify that tendency within ourselves? The tendency to be Aaron within ourselves.
I think, and not even just being Aaron, but being Moses, because I think a deeper question is, why was this a habit between Moses and Aaron? So let's go back, and kind of eisegete, if you will, the story, right? Or give our own interpretation of it. So think about this. God called Moses, not Aaron, right? But Moses had a stuttering problem. So listen, Moses looking within himself, he sees something that is, flawed, that makes him vulnerable. He can't speak. He's not good at communicating. So what does Moses do? He relies on Aaron. And maybe in that sense, it's the fact of Moses' presence to your analogy of John Starks and Patrick Ewing. Moses is there, though Moses is little brother and Aaron is big brother. Aaron has the panache. He has the swag, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He has the stoic style, that Moses doesn't possess, So while Moses is there, Aaron can speak, and Aaron is just only gonna say what Moses tell him to say, right?
Right. Right. Right.
And so this becomes the relationship or the relational dynamic, not only between two brothers, but two brothers who are now seen as leaders. Moses is the leader. He has the staff in his hand, right? Mm-hmm. He's the griot. We know from our ancestors, from that continent they call Africa, the one with the staff, the one who tells the story is the leader, right? So that's Moses. Aaron is just good at communicating,
Right.
He just fit the profile.
Right.
And so what happens is, as Moses is building a relationship with the people, I see it like, when they're in that wilderness, Aaron, both are, but Aaron is like, because, he's kind of like the figurehead, in that sense, he can kind of mesh well with the people, kind of mingle with the people, whereas Moses may have to keep a certain distance, mm-hmm. if you will. For instance, him going to Mount Sinai, mm-hmm. that's a distance, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Moses being mm-hmm. with God, and Aaron doesn't get that kind of, if you will, VIP status with God mm-hmm. as Moses get, so Aaron is more like the people. Though Aaron looks the part, he speaks the part, but Moses has the influential power. And I think this creates the distance. But to answer your question, I think one has to see within themselves who they are. Whether you be Moses or whether you be Aaron, whatever it is, you just have to be willing to do self-actualization work. You have to be self-aware to know who you are, why you think, feel, behave the way you think, feel, and behave. And to your point, I think that becomes a problem whether you are Moses or Aaron. That becomes the problem, that we don't put in the work of really thinking critically, being self-aware of who we are. And maybe I even add this addendum to it, is probably why we like being in exile. Exile may not necessarily create a space for you to think and feel and behave the way that you think, feel, and behave, because your needs are being met. As long as manna is raining from heaven, as long as you got water, I'm straight. Look at that Jeremiah passage, right? Before God tells Jeremiah, behold, I know the plans for you and all of that stuff. But if you go back up, it says, well, while you in exile, y'all just, grow a garden.
Right.
Have children.
Right. Eat, drink, be merry. He ain't say that, but eat, drink, be merry.
And so exile or that wilderness becomes that. We don't have to do the introspective work of knowing who we are or remembering who we are, because
it's interesting when you say that, man, and it's almost like when Moses came down from the mountain, the people stood afar off, and they even said, you go speak with God, and then you come tell us, because we don't want to speak to God. Like that's too deep. That's too much. That's too,
That's what.
man.
Right.
That's what we pay you for. You know, Pastor. That's what we pay you for. And and you know, Moses had to wear the veil over his face because the people were too intimidated by his holiness. But like you said, they prefer Aaron. You know, he appeased them. He, you know, was flashy. He could speak their language. He was cool in the gang. He made them comfortable in you know, in the colloquial sense. Not, he didn't put them in strength. He made them comfortable. Moses kept drawing them outside of their comfort zone. And people didn't want that. And so ever since on down to now, when faced with Moses or Aaron, the people choose Aaron. Because Aaron looks the part. Aaron's anointed of the Lord. Aaron is all of these things. And Aaron's going to make us feel good about ourselves. Aaron's going to indulge our ways. Aaron's going to let us be wrong. You know, Aaron's going to let us think we're right when he knows we're wrong. And you see so many pastors that do that. You know what I mean? That, you know, because I need to keep my job, or because, you know, all of us are human and flawed, or whatever excuse that we give ourselves, you know, we allow the faithful to be unfaithful, you know, and we excuse it and we condone it and we coddle it and we encourage it and we, you know, appease it, just like Aaron was appeasing their unfaithfulness, and even codifying their unfaithfulness, right? Because here goes Aaron, like, this is your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Like, so codifying the unfaithfulness of the people. This is the way that our people wanted us to march. This is the way that our people wanted us to protest. This is, you know, telling Black people, you know, people died so you could have the right to vote. We codify these things. I guess I'll give that sidebar for those of y'all who heard me speak this Black sacrilege, this blasphemy, that I will say again, Black folk need to stop that bullshit. Ain't nobody die for you and I to have the right to vote. Didn't nobody go to the polls and risk dying. Didn't nobody get beat over the head so that you could have the right to vote. They died, they risked their death so that you and I could have freedom. If the right to vote is a part of that, the right to vote is a part of that, but they did not die. Ain't a damn soul say, you know what, honey, I'm gonna just go out here and leave the family and die because I want little nigga children later in life to have the right to go to the polls and vote. That is not why they gave their lives. So it's better stop letting Massa convince y'all on that dumbass shit. So every year we don't get no freedom. We don't get no more freedom. We don't get nothing for this vote. But every year they come out and say, every election season, they come out and say, your ancestors died for you to have the right to vote, so you need to come out and vote. My ancestors died for you to pass some legislation that would give me freedom. You ain't done that yet.
And that's why they wanted the right to vote, to your point.
It wasn't just an exercise in futility, which is what voting is for us now, an exercise in futility, but it has become codified. This is your God that brought you out of the land of Egypt. This is the key to your salvation. Go to the polls every election day. Ain't got us shit yet. That golden calf didn't get them shit. But the people chose leadership that would do that. Like, That was what they wanted. So maybe then it's not so much, are you more like Aaron or are you more like Moses? It is that you are like Aaron or Moses. You are like one of them. And 9 times out of 10, what the people choose is someone they think is going to be more like Aaron, most like Aaron, someone who's going to pacify and appease them, someone who's going to pat them on the back and make them feel okay about their own degraded self, someone who is not going to encourage and require their faithfulness.
Yes, absolutely. Someone who's going to submit tradition, submit the religio-political structure versus someone, and let me be literal when I say this. If we look at, well, let me look at it from a literary, I should say, not a literal, but a literary perspective. Moses, who spends time with God, you know, it's not going to look like, to your point that you made, which is a great point, someone who spends time with people. So what happens is Moses is going to require something different than the Aaron will. And I think this is where the leadership approaches, or leadership ideology, or leadership philosophy kind of differs, you know, in the sense of, are you looking to build a relationship, or are you looking to be effective? You know what I'm saying? While building a relationship, right? Moses is a fervent and effectual, effective leader, you know, who embodies, you know, this idea of commitment to God, commitment to self, and commitment to people. So it shapes, that kind of commitment shapes a pathos, logos, and ethos. It shapes a different type of word or way of communicating. It shapes a different type of ethic or character, and it shapes a different type of passion. You know what I'm saying? And so as a result, you know, you're going to hold folk accountable when you're Moses. You know what I'm saying? And when you're Aaron, you just going to be like, hey, man, it's all good because I love you, because, you know, we wanted the same. We just chilling, you know, we just maxing and relaxing, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, think about this. Let me give us a contextual example. We talk about Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman is the centralized figure, the person who they call Moses. Mm-hmm. But we don't really know who Harriet Tubman is. Harriet Tubman was a woman who did not take any crap. She didn't take any crap from anybody.
Anybody.
You know what I'm saying? So if
she was free a long time before she was free.
Exactly. It was just embodied in 1849 when she said, all right, my brothers don't want to call me fine. You know, these men don't want to call me fine. I'm out.
Right. Deuces.
So with that being said, when you're dealing with somebody who's really determined to reach a goal, to reach a destination, they're going to be situationalists. They're going to make sure they do whatever it takes to get there. If they have to point a gun to your head, or if they have to break stone tablets right in your face. And here's the other thing that we got.
Wait. Not just break stone tablets in your face, but remember, he ground that golden calf to dust, scattered it in the water, and told the people, drink that shit.
Yep, he did that. That's Moses. Harriet Tubman is gonna put a gun to your face and say, move or die. So the thing is, I think we become so comfortable in the wilderness or in exile because we want leaders who will enable us to cope. To your point that you were making, to cope, they become like us. We become doctrinated in this tradition of coping, this tradition of, man, listen, We just want to be happy. I'm just using that as a hypothetical because we love to insert happiness. Though the forefathers who founded this country, they don't say being happy. They say life, liberty, and the pursuit. It ain't no being. It's not like
there is no arrival.
Reality.
There is no arrival. It's always a becoming.
It's always a becoming. And we get that junk twisted. The purpose of the wilderness is to get you to a destination.
Right.
It's not for you to settle there.
Right.
And we've been in exile, since 1865. You know,
so it's like which one comes first, Doc? The chicken or the egg? Because is it pastors that's gonna realize this and stop being Aarons, or is it the people that's gonna stop desiring Aaron? Like, where is the energy spent in reconciling this?
Yeah, and I think this is why that liturgy piece is important. You know, we've been kind of talking about.
Here we go again, right?
You know,
hey, y'all gonna be well versed on liturgy by the time we finish with these episodes, man, because it always comes back to that, Doc.
It comes back to your spiritual theological center. You know what I'm saying? You got to do the work of self-actualization. You got to confront some things. You got to confess some things. You got to be convicted by some things so that you can be converted to lead others, so that we can remain in community. Confrontation, confession, conviction, conversion. Those are my core values that I just kind of live by. I preach my sermons by them in that sense of looking at, you know, why do I think the way that I think? Why do I feel the way that I feel? Why do I behave the way that I behave? That's me confronting those things and being able to change. So one of the things that we talk about, and all of this, honestly, I think is a strategy of what we call adaptive leadership, because now we are transforming people. We're transforming the lives of people. And I think adaptive leadership is essential if we're going to grow and we're going to grow. I'm talking about in terms of who we are, grow in terms of who we are as a community, so that we can move to, and I'm going to use the word that you use, freedom. That people marched, you know, in Selma, and they crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge. It wasn't a vote. It was for freedom. The freedom to have and express your voice. And one of the ways that we express our voice is through voting.
Right.
Not just summum bonum. It's not just the end all be all. You know what I'm saying? We also express our voice when we go to those committee meetings and say, we demand. That's what Fannie Lou Hamer was doing.
Shoot. We also express our voice when we build our own community.
Exactly.
That's what the Tuskegee Institute was about.
That's what Bethune-Cookman College was about. I mean, that's what these other HBCUs were about. They were in community, and we become a community first before we become a voice. So if you watch that movie Drumline, you know, the mission was one band, one sound.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't become a band until you, as a freshman, go through orientation.
Amazing.
That's what we call it. You go through orientation. You learn the culture. You learn the values. And here's the thing: you're gonna have section leaders who are gonna model that mission and vision of that band, the director of bands. His staff is gonna model that, and they are gonna be situationalists. Listen, the director of bands at Bethune-Cookman, his favorite word was deduction. Come late to band practice, deduction. Miss a note, deduction. Don't wear what you're supposed to wear, deduction. Don't be where you're supposed to be, deduction. And Cookman was one of the most like disciplined, great sounding bands in HBCU pantheons. I'm just saying. But the point of the
I would
matter.
I would lay down some for Bowie State University. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but I'm essentially saying all that to just simply say is that you have to know who you are. Those people who are in leadership, those band directors, they don't care what you say about them. You know what I'm saying? The thing is, they know who they are. They know who they are. And I think as leaders, we have to be engaged in that courageous work of confrontation, confession, conviction, and conversion so that we hold accountable the people who are a part of our community, mm-hmm. who they trust us as leaders. We do that work.
But see, I'm so glad that you brought in the band analogy, right? Because that's a beautiful thing, right? Like, to me, like, ain't nothing like an HBCU band, right? I do have an affinity for Bowie State, and but still, a lot of schools, a lot of HBCUs have a good band, and you ain't no HBCU if your band ain't no good. I don't even think Harris Stowe in St. Louis, I went there too. I don't even think they got a band. Like, I don't consider you an HBCU. You ain't got a band. Like, sorry to all my folks who went to an HBCU with no band.
Give your money back to your school if you want to see your band prosper. Hey. If you real talk, support your school.
And the reason being is back to what I was saying. The reason the band becomes so important, right? Not for the good music, and that's what we enjoy, but that is that area where we still hold to that level of discipline. Man, I could never be a member because I was not in the band, KK Psi. But to see them brothers and sisters, well, the sisters didn't play, there's TBS, but to see them brothers pledge KK Psi and the discipline that they had, right? Like, I couldn't be on point like they had to be on point. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's a different level of discipline. And what I mean by that, the importance of that is that's the level of discipline that's required to be one band and one sound. That's the level of discipline required to be a people. To be, look. A people is comprised of persons, but a people is singular. It is a people. It is not, some people, and to become a people, you gotta be one band, one sound. You gotta have one voice. You gotta have that discipline that's gonna compel you to be one voice. And people, kids that's in band, they ain't going to no school where the band is bullshit.
No.
They want a band that's going to discipline them.
Right.
They want that. They ain't going to choose no band director who's going to be like Aaron, who's going to just appease them when they don't want practice and coddle them when they figure, you know what, the white bands sound like shit. Why can't we sound like shit? Like, and white school bands do sound like shit. But but, they want that band director, that director of bands is going to discipline them, that's going to hold them accountable. They want that Moses. And so it's that both and, you know what I mean? It's that both and what we as a people, and this is why I like bringing that band analogy, especially for us who went to a HBCU and have seen, even if only on the periphery, the work that goes into, those marching bands. And the props that they get for it. You know what I mean? Like, at most HBCUs, the band is more important than the football team.
Man, and all of them, if you have a band, right? You have a band, all of them.
You don't go to the game to watch the football team. You go for the battle of the bands.
Yeah.
And it's because the band put in more work than the team.
Yep.
And it's like, how do we, and it's great that you are a band, man. How do we embody the spirit of the band, the marching band, the HBCU marching band, as we talk about, let us march on till victory is won. How do we embody the spirit of the marching band? How do we have, how do leaders embody the spirit of the quality director of bands? what is it that makes that individual? And what is it that draws band members toward that individual?
So, man, I think it's this, man. You got to be a part of culture, right? And so, meaning though, for instance, you weren't a part of a band, you know what I'm saying? But you knew folk who pledged KK and shout out to TBS too, because we're inclusive for real.
Oh yeah, that's why I
so,
they was hardcore too.
You know what I'm saying? Don't let it fool you. We are inclusive. You know?
Shannon would whip my ass if I didn't shout out TBS.
So, so here's the thing, man. The band, to me, at least it was in Cookman, they set the culture. They set the culture for Cookman. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, they spent the most time, but here is the biggest thing. Everybody bought into the mission and the vision, regardless of where you came from, regardless of how trash your high school band was. Listen, that don't matter. Now we are family. Now we are part. That's why you go through your orientation. And a lot of us, I'm going to pause and say this. A lot of us don't want to go through orientation.
Right.
We don't want to go through what it means to be a part of something. We are part of a fraternity, right? And those fraternity had band members in it. And let me tell you something. Them band members, they was the one that was really they were really vital in the orientation, if you will.
Right.
You know, they were very vital, man. I used to hate to see them at night, man. But nevertheless, but to your point is that we have to buy into our heart, our mind, our lives have to be in it. It's ride or die. That's the only way. That's the only way.
But you know what? You're right there where you say we don't even want to have an orientation. We don't even want to pledge. We don't want to, you know what I mean? It's like we got leadership that don't even believe in orientation anymore. You know, everybody's skating.
Mm-hmm.
Fraternities and sororities, Divine Nine skating like crazy. Civil rights organizations is skating like crazy. Our whole culture is skating. And,
bruh.
You know, it's like we don't want to form ourselves for anything. You know, we just want to be appeased. We just want it to be given, you know. Man, would we have died back in Egypt when we sat by pots of meat to the full and pots of meat and ate bread to the full? Like, yo, that shit was just there for us, man. We entitled to food. What you mean I gotta wait for food? I gotta wait for the quail to come up. I gotta wait for the bread to rain down from heaven. What is this? What do you mean? You bring me out here to die? You bring me out here for this? And it's become the same for us, you know? It's like, man, I'm an American, man. I don't have to work for nothing. I don't have to struggle for nothing. What you mean I gotta be formed? I gotta be transformed? Nah, man, I'm entitled. Slather me with some of this white privilege, man. And we got leaders who have compelled us, and a lot of the leaders have been our frat brothers, the boys.
Listen, man, they gonna kill you for that, bro.
Hey, I don't care, man. I ain't scared of them. I'm waiting to go to Omega chapter, man. Like,
see that's how you know when you're free. When you say stuff like "I don't care," I don't care about that. Who cares? We spitting truth. We speaking truth to power. And to your point, those are the leaders that we need. You got to be free. If you're gonna free people in our community, you can't be bought.
But we don't. It's like, I don't know how dubious it gets. I don't know how dubious. You know, we could run off conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory, and many of which would make complete sense. I don't know how dubious it gets, but I do know this. It's like our leadership is like the new scribes and Pharisees, right? Like, scribes and Pharisees were there to keep the Israelites in their place, to keep them subjugated, to keep them in line with Roman oppression. And they got a little good life, you know. The governor, what's his name? Pilate and them would give them favor, and you know, they would live a good life to keep their people in line. You know, they drive the black Mercedes, and you know, they be on TV with the mayors and the governors, and you know, they get to introduce the president at his rallies and shit, and you know, they get a good life for keeping their people in line. And you know, it's like, we got to get, as leaders, we got to get past that. As people who follow, we got to get past that. You know what I mean? We got to want, because they play into that whole, the people don't want to transform. Nobody really wants to transform.
Right.
And we'll complain, but nobody really wants to transform. And so we don't want leaders that are going to challenge us. And it's like, I would say the powers that be know that. And so they empowers the leaders who won't challenge you. And then those leaders come out and say, you know what, all you have to do is go to the polls on, we got clergy, you know, these are pastors, the Reverend so-and-sos, you know what I mean? Who their solutions that they offer to people are go to the polls and vote. I ain't see that nowhere in the Bible. I don't know what scripture they quote when they say that.
Oh, God.
They'll use scripture and say some real shit and then water it down by telling you to use that real shit to go vote. I'm not saying don't vote. I'm saying we favor a religious leadership who is directing our focus at the ways and tools of the world. And when will we want a religious leadership who actually sees some value in their religion and theology as a solution for what the people need to do in these times? Like Moses and Aaron, right? Moses knew. Moses kept reminding, when they started hungering, why are you contending with me? Why are you contending against the Lord your God? Like, you got to understand, things are bigger than this. Yes, you are hungry, and yes, you need food, and you will get food if you point your attention this way. Aaron came along looking like a religious leader, and the people said, activism, do something. And he was like, okay, cool, give me your gold. And now he, a religious leader, has now become a metal worker and a craftsman and a used car salesman. Because now he melting down metal, creating a golden calf and selling the people on, this is what you need to do. Ain't got shit to do with the faith that he's supposedly ordained to proclaim. But that's the religious leadership that we turn to. Right? We ain't turning to religious leadership that is pointing us to the things of God, like Moses, like, you know, would say, you know, this is what the word says, this is where we need to be going. You know, everything is pointed towards the world, to put towards the things of the world. And so it's like, who will we keep choosing? You know, and what has to happen for us to choose differently? I don't know.
Yeah, man, it goes back to, what do you want? You know, Howard Thurman talks, it's on YouTube, I think, that particular meditation. He titles it, What Do You Want?
Okay.
And he draws in that meditation us back to the center of God being, God being at the center of our lives. And with God at the center of our lives, God shapes our perspective in that sense, or, you know, or who you view God to be to you, you know, in that sense. Who is God to you that's shaping that? So, doing that work, man, it enables us to be able to, have a clear mission, a clear vision to say, you know what, I'm gonna be for the people, I'm gonna serve, or I'm not. I'm just gonna serve myself, and do whatever it takes to serve myself and build my own, whatever that is,
But with those people, I would hope at least, that with those people, because those people are gonna exist, man. But with those people, the people will in turn say, I ain't following that one.
Right.
You know, yeah, he made me feel good, and that's probably the problem. She make me feel good, and that's probably the problem. Because I shouldn't feel good about this.
Yep. Man, I'm gonna use a band analogy. I wasn't in the marching band. I was in the jazz combo, but all of my friends were in the marching band. I was a part of jazz band in the rhythm section. So, we share the same kind of, relationship in terms of freshman brother, things of that nature. Okay. But normally drum majors are chosen, based on, you being a section leader.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you may have to have a look, or you have to be a certain height. But the thing is, one of the requirements, if you will, is to be a master craftsman in your instrument. You exemplifying leadership to your section in terms of how they sound, how disciplined they are, whatever those things are. And then as a result, and the biggest thing is you build a relationship, right? Because you build in a relationship, they can develop the trust in terms of your integrity, right? In terms of your humility, and not necessarily in terms of, oh yeah, man, he cool, you know what I'm saying? Now you could be cool too, but as long as you have integrity and that humility, and when you say something, or when you're in that position, those people can say, you know what? Yeah, I need to listen. I mean, I was in the jazz combo, and eventually, my roommate was the music director. And, when our professor wasn't in rehearsals, which 85 times out of 10, he wasn't, because he was the chair of the music department. He ain't got time for that. He trusts us. That's why we get the big bucks, Hey, you know what? So my roommate, who was my freshman brother, he was the music director and could play, and he had a zero tolerance for stuff but he was a cool dude. And then when he graduated, I became the music director. Same thing. We inherited the same, so it was the same thing. Now I probably was a little more people oriented, but at the same token, we still got the job done.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, so those values are still there, and you hold those truths, those commitments, those virtues that shapes a people.
Right.
You hold them with sacred reverence. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. And that's a bit of what we're missing, that sacred reverence.
Yes.
So that's the question, brothers and sisters. How do we recover that sacred reverence? That sacred reverence for the work of becoming a people, for the work of becoming beloved community, for the work of oneness. How do we reclaim a regard for that sacred reverence? And to refocus and recommit ourselves to that process of becoming. What would have to happen for us to first admit that we haven't been paying that attention? so that we can then recommit to having regard for that sacred reference. Let us know in the comments what you think. Tweet us at www.jimmydo, JIMMIE www.jimmydo, or at jabread, ja_bread, ja like Rastafari, and bread like what you eat. Let us know what would have to happen for us to reclaim that sacred reference. Love to hear from you, because a charge to keep we have, a God to glorify, a never dying soul to save, and fitted for the sky. Brothers and sisters, we indeed have come a long way. Our ancestors brought us this far by faith, and yet we have so much further to go. So let us march on till victory is won. Peace.